CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.
We have got Anne Lee here with us, and we're going to talk to, well, who's on our panel today? Anne, welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. I've got to say I was listening to the show on my drive over on the app, and it sounded fantastic. And what a great way to be able to listen to the show.
So just quickly before we talk to Richard, tell me how that, so you're just on, is it going through your Google or?
Going through my Apple CarPlay, I just plug it in, turn it on, the phone, it goes automatically onto it, and the dulcet tones of Andy Thompson were right.
Oh, well, that's
coming through the airways.
Too kind of you, and very, very kind. Well, it's good to see that. There will be, at the moment, we can't, I don't think you can view it on the app yet, though. I think that's coming. You can listen to it. Oh, you can. I'm getting nods from.
Yeah, you can definitely.
I'm getting nods from Cody.
You
producer
can definitely
Cody.
view it, but when you're in the car, it automatically goes through to the Apple CarPlay, which is just ideal. I never have to stop and download a flaming podcast and try and work out which one I want to listen to ever again.
Right. Well, that's great.
It's all there.
All right, well, we're going to head back to the West Coast right now because one of the West Coast's most successful dairy farmers is on the line waiting for us. Richard Reynolds.
He'll love that.
G'day, mate.
How are you, Andy?
I'm very good. You're looking suitably scruffy. How are you?
I am. I've had to look at myself on the screen and admit that you're correct.
Yeah. So no one told you this was actually a video this morning, right?
Well, no, to be fair, Andy, I got dumped by Anne from the dairy exporter, and I don't actually know if I've got over being dumped by her writing articles for her. So, yeah.
That sadly was the case.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that I would say dumped, but yes, we did have a little bit of a change of how we were running our contributors, and sadly, Richard Reynolds did have to take a dive for that. And to be honest, it did lower my workload a little bit because I did have to double check his
lowered your workload.
Yeah, double check his contributions. Just sometimes legally, actually.
Well, hold on. Does that mean we need to double check his contributions to this today legally? Maybe we should have this on delay. Producer Cody, can we put these on delay so in case Richard says something that gets us all arrested? He hasn't replied to that.
No.
All right. Hey, Richard, just quickly before we get into it, how's the West Coast today? A bit windy, I understand.
Very, very windy. Actually, we might get back out on the tractor today, but for the last 2 days, it's been avoiding stuff flying around the sky, really. So, yeah, no, we're just where we are in Barrytown, we do get a bit of wind. When it blows, it blows.
I introduced you at the start of the show and said that I didn't say you were the West Coast's most successful farmers. I said you're one of the most scenic farmers. Your spot there in Barrytown is just next level, right? Explain to the listeners and the viewers where you are.
So we're right on the beach. So there's a very small strip of land between the mountains and the sea, and we in the dairy shed you look out at Mount Cook in the distance.
Yeah, it is. I've been to Richard's farm, Richard and Christina, and it is a stunning spot, absolutely stunning. And when I visited back then, I don't think you were milking quite as many cows as you are now, but I think you're up to like 520 cows through your 30-side herringbone shed, and doing that once a day, but twice a day, because you're doing one herd in the morning and one herd in the afternoon. Is that how you run it, Richard?
Yeah, that's how we run it. So we brought a neighbouring block, and one of the aims was to still be able to run the farm with one person if we needed to. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell us, how's the season been going? What's been happening on the coast so far this season?
It's actually surprisingly turned out quite a good season. Most people are at or above production, but by God, it was pretty crap to start with. It has to go down as one of the wettest, longest, coldest springs we've had. Usually when we're wet, we grow grass. This year we were just cold and wet.
Richard, I don't know if you've got the same tech as Wiff's got, but he said to me that there were 62 days in October and November of continual rain. Like in his rain gauge, there was, it might have only been 0.2 one day or whatever it was, but for 62 continuous days it rained.
I haven't got the same tech as Wiff. I actually and quite happy about that. But yes, I do get the same weather that he gets.
You're slightly north, though. For people that know where Barrytown is, it's on the road. It's just before Punakaiki. So you go north from Greymouth on the coast road up towards Westport, and just before Punakaiki, there's a beautiful spot called Barrytown, and it's semi-tropical there, though, subtropical. You've got Nikau palms. It's the most beautiful climate.
It just too windy, too wet to grow anything of greater value than dairy farming.
Hey, you're very lucky then that dairy farming is wonderful. It is as it is then, because things have been going pretty well over there with your milk processor too. Things ticking along. Everybody's sort of interested to understand what's happening with Westland.
I'll disappoint everyone and say that when we sold the co-op, we now don't care. And that is the basic. Welcome to supplying a company. We get paid 10 cents more than Fonterra, so we buy Fonterra butter.
So just on that, that you get paid 10 cents more than Fonterra, which is an interesting scenario. That was when they bought the company. When they bought Westland Milk Products, that was put in for 10 years, I think, right?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that last year or the year before they said, hey, okay, now this is permanent?
They've said they're carrying it on for another 2 or 3 years after the 10 years. So, yeah. And look, to be fair to them and say we don't care is a bit rough. But look, they've treated us very well. They seem to be going okay, but really it's not our business any longer. So it's our job to supply milk and do what we're told to do, which is different from owning a co-op, and it's got some advantages, some disadvantages.
Absolutely, and one of those is that you don't have any capital tied up in that business, but then if they're going to come along and give you that income 10 cents above Fonterra's, that there's nothing to complain about there. But it is a big change in mindset, isn't it, from being part of the co-op and being very involved and having a say in everything. So, interesting to see how farmers on the coast feel about that.
Oh, look, the big change is actually probably the social change in some strange ways that we used to, because as everyone knows, Westland for a number of years managed to run itself into the ground. And as farmers, we would have meetings at least twice a year that would go to, if not sometimes 4 times a year. So the social cohesion of farmers actually getting together and having a common cause, was good. And now I've got friends on the coast that I don't catch up with as much because we don't have that 2 times a year get together that we always had. And that's sort of a strange thing to say about one of the worst things about losing the co-op, but I think it's definitely a factor.
Richard, one of the things, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, the parallels to the Fonterra payout last week, the $400,000 on average to each Fonterra farmer. I've drawn parallels to the Westland payout, which was kind of around the 370 odd K to average farmer, and what that did for the balance sheets for the Westland farmers. What do you make of the parallels between the two payouts?
Different times, Andy, I suppose. When we got that payout, we'd had some shit payouts that we had really, really been hammered. We had a $3.70, $3.80 payout.
I remember it.
Yeah, you may remember it. Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I remember it very, very well.
Yeah. So we'd had some long-term payout losses compared to Fonterra. We'd had 2 or 3 years of large payout reductions compared to Fonterra. So pretty much everyone never saw that money. It all went straight to the banks. The banks were very, very happy it happened. This year, hopefully, for most people, that payout, if they are getting that share, if they are a shareholder in Fonterra, they've got options what they're doing with that money rather than going straight to the banks with zero options. So there's some differences about that. The other thing is Fonterra still exists, and they still own shares in Fonterra.
Yeah. Richard, one of the things we're going to talk about in this little slot here was a fantastic model which you have dubbed, in only you, the way you could, the Reynolds rat. It's a financial kind of model that we might talk about rather than a pest problem. So can you explain?
Well, my brother's a chartered accountant in Nelson, so I better give him some credit for the co-design of the Reynolds rat. If you look at dairy farm performance, pretty much on any part of that, so whether that's financial, breeding, social engagement, it's not a bell-shaped curve as we were, like to be taught at school. It's more the shape of a rat. So if you'd imagine a rat with a pointy nose and some whiskers, a head, a big bulbous body, and then a very long tail, that is a closer representation of farm performance rather than a bell-shaped curve. And there's two parts of the rat that are interesting. The first part's the pointy nose part of that rat. If you're going to be at the pointy nose part of that rat, it's bloody hard work. If you're going to run a very, very profitable farm system at that pointy nose part of the rat, it involves a lot of effort from the key decision maker to stay at that pointy nose part of the rat. And what you tend to see is that people might start at the pointy nose part of that rat, but over time they'll tend to go back to the ears or and still be top performers, but they won't be to the level they were previously. They'll take a step back. And the other end of the rat is that long tail. And up until recently, that's been the long tail that's been under financial pressure from banks. And as long as you're in that long tail, as long as you're in front of the anus, you're pretty safe. But it's that long tail that gets chopped off by banks, disinterested in farming, selling up, and so that's the sort of model is that those two ends of that rat.
When we were talking about this, and I've got to say that it would be the pull quote of the year for me, and maybe put it in
front of the anus.
Yeah, put it on a T-shirt.
Okay then.
But seriously, we were talking about some of the numbers. The cost of production, and we've had some fantastic income coming in, but people aren't running around, clapping their hands and shouting it from the rooftops necessarily. And some of that is to do with the high cost of production and that creep and those sorts of things. Richard, you've done a little bit of research into that. Yeah.
So I suppose the question is what's going to happen next year? And if anyone tells you they actually know what's going to happen next year, walk away from them quietly, because there is no ability to know what's going to happen next year. So I'm predicting that the payout next year is going to be somewhere between $6 and $12. And you might say that's not overly bloody amazing to say that, but before this war started and the fuel prices inflation came in, I would have said somewhere between $9 and $12. So I suppose that real risk is back. We're back to real risk and real uncertainty. So we've got an uncertainty about payout, but then I think we've also got some certainty around cost pressures. How much that cost pressure is going to be is the unknown. And if I've sort of not doing about as much scientific effort as you can in this, I've come up with sort of $1 as my prediction that costs are going to go up next year.
So gird your loins, people.
Gird your loins.
Get ready for it, and
we've got
make your business resilient.
Yeah, we've got dollar down a little bit or down, but we've also got these extra costs coming in, so our input costs are coming in. Well, we've got a GDT tonight, which will be interesting. Okay, well, we'll hold you to that, Richard. Your prediction of between $6 and $12, that's relatively broad, so we'll see where we go. Hey, mate, really appreciate your time. We've got to run now. I'll let you get back to the rest of your busy day, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, sweet as. Enjoyable.
Rightio, Anne. Yeah. So, have you got a note on that? Be in front of the AM.
Yes, absolutely. As I say, going to put that on a T-shirt. $8.31 cost of production. Break even. Sorry, break even.
So he's saying 9.
So he's saying add $1 to it.
Yeah.
In terms of volatility.
Ouch. Ouch. Cost of production, debt levels, all of that sort of stuff.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.